Hi guys, how are you guys?
Real well.
Uh,
How you doing?
I'm
How you
doing
doing?
well. I love the show and I love your music, obviously. So I wanted to get started with what was sort of your introduction to the X-Men? Was it the series, or were you guys fans of the comics, or
It was the reverse for Taylor and I. I was a fan of the comics. I had gotten into the comics and then got into the show when that came out after. And Taylor was the reverse. He got into the show and then the show got him into the comics, which is sort of funny that he and I discovered that in the process of starting this.
and so like you do get when you're tasked with the show, you're very much modernizing the X-Men, introducing them to the MCU, but you also have to keep this 90s vibe. So what kind of challenge did that present for you?
I think it was more about finding, what as a creative team, what everybody was wanting to balance of how much of that nostalgic 90s sound they wanted. And I think once we figured that out through some testing and experimentation, we would just then go, okay, cool, for this scene, we're going to sprinkle in some old school synthesizers or something. And then for other sequences, maybe we wouldn't. So it feels slightly more modern. And that was sort of finding that balance, sort of the approach.
And so you do get to work with you have this gift of you work with Ron Wasserman's original theme song, and then you modernize it, and it's so badass, and it's still it's still it's just a banger today. And so like what was the kind of experience like? How did you want to re-envision that and then also use it throughout the series?
Um, that it was terrifying at first to like, when you're up against something like that, it's like you don't want to screw something up. It's like it's a perfect piece of music. And so we were just sort of challenged with what's the next iteration of this? How do we like pay homage to like what it is and also like, move into the next chapter with story and everything. So we kind of approached it from the standpoint of trying several versions. Like Taylor and I had lots of discussions about it and then just decided to dive in and attempt several different versions, 7, 8 versions. And they all took a different path. And I think like in doing that process, it became very clear to us and to the show creatives and directors that staying sort of in the path of the original, but just updating some of the sounds was working really well. And then we kind of utilized a palette of musicians to sort of, we had Nili Brosh track guitar, we recorded orchestra and choir over in Vienna. And then there's probably 100 tracks of Taylor and I tracking synthesizers, drum machines. A lot of those are doubling things so that one sound might give the beef to the sound, but the other sound gives sort of the nostalgia to the top end of it. That was a lot of fun. And then it was just about just following sort of the roadmap of what Ron had already done.
And so like and then you get to also have a bunch of new themes for all the different characters. And one in particular that I really noticed in episode one is Storm's theme when she comes out in the sand. What went behind creating that specific music, and were there any other characters that you had a lot of fun designing a theme for?
Yeah, I would say that she was a fun to work with. We did that again as well. A lot of the themes we did early on when we didn't really have picture, we just had script, and so obviously the sounds of nature and Africa and sort of those kind of elements combined is what we use for her theme. And we started off with this kind of this piano sound that would lead into a bigger, more goddess of the environment sort of and all these abilities would start coming out, lightning and wind. So it was a lot of fun. I would then probably say Magneto was probably my second favorite one to work on. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah. I think they all had just a different they all had a different tone to them, and it made it fun for us that the show was written so well. And the animation was so great because it really gave us like colors to play with across the board, especially story wise. Like Storm's story, I mean, already like in the first 4 episodes, we know sort of, what has happened with her, and it's very deep and tragic and speaks to things that we all deal with even in our own lives, as well as like Magneto's arc, even in just these 4 episodes of like, wait a minute, like who is he now, you know, and his whole speech at the end of episode 2. Um, it was really fun for us to try to like get behind the emotion of what these characters are about, but also realize that all these characters are flawed like we all are, you know? So realizing that like a theme needs to develop and pivot and move and come home and all those things.
Awesome, awesome. I can't wait to hear Wolverines. But so how when you guys are working together, how does your approach differ when you're tackling a 10 episode show like this? Are you each coming up with different stuff and then coming together to kind of like mix and match and finding where it's most appropriate, or is it more of a are you guys in the room at the same time or
I think it was more of what you first said. I think it's more of like we like to go off separately and not tell each other what we're doing to sort of come together with fresh ideas that aren't influencing one another. And then we sort of there discuss what we like and what's working, what isn't working, and then based on sort of that process, then we'll go and present to the creatives and the directors and sort of feel like what they're liking, what is working, what isn't working. And that really helps give kind of a different perspective, which is super useful in this sort of arc of so many characters, and it's such a huge IP, and so many fans, such a beloved property. It's I feel like the stakes are high to you want to like make sure everybody's happy.
absolutely. And since you are both of you do come from you've scored so many horror shows, like when you're tackling something like episode 3 with Mr. Sinister, is that something that's a little more in your wheelhouse, or did you find different challenges that the superhero genre sort of presented?
I think there are always new challenges. It was funny with that episode though, like when we came in to spot that episode, we sat down with everyone and they just said, "Yeah, you guys just do that thing that you do." Like which is funny because there isn't a thing, you know, there's not a thing that we do. It's I think that like we're comfortable with that genre, not comfortable, but like we understand places to start is a good way to say it, because we never really know what's going to work. But that episode presented challenges as well. You know, like I think in a lot of the live action stuff that we've done that's horror related, there's more time. You know, you have time to set up a scare where it's like, let's be really quiet for 3 minutes and then hit something big, or like let's make you feel really sad for a character and then they die. And with this, it's like you just need to be like terrified right away. Go, like be terrified, and then boom, we're into another scene. Like so, it was very challenging to sort of uh turn the whole idea on its head that we've been used to. But it was a lot of fun to do.
And so I did read that you both apprenticed under Hans Zimmer, who's very familiar with the superhero thing. So was that did your experience with him help inform some of what you guys were doing when you were planning X-Men? Because it is more of a grandiose kind of sound.
Well, I worked for Hans. Andy didn't, but uh, no, I would say no. I mean, Hans is a brilliant composer, but I think that was a long time ago, and I didn't really use any sort of like ideas from that for this show, that experience. But I love what he's did on what was it? Was the Phoenix movie he did? I
Mhm.
forget what the name of that film was. It wasn't the Rise of the Phoenix. It was something else, like Dark Phoenix or something.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I thought he did a great score.
Yeah, rad.
Really, really good score. But no, I learned a lot from him in general, as a lot of cool tricks of the trade and just being a film composer. But I didn't sort of apply anything to this particular show.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just curious. But thank
Oh,
you
no
guys so
worries.
much for your time. I appreciate it. Can't wait
Yeah,
to see what the rest of the season has in store for us. But thank you so much.
awesome. Yeah, thank you, Rohan. Have a nice
Thanks,
day,
man.
man.
Ron.
You too. Have a good one.
Thanks, you too. Bye bye.
Bye.